All right. I think I'm live. Cool. I hope.
Live?
I think so. I think I'm live.
You are live.
I am live. Hi, everyone. I'm just gonna wait like a couple seconds. Just gonna wait it out. It's not 5 yet. We're just gonna chilling.
There we go.
Just hanging out here at Connie's casa. Y'all, it's like 90 degrees outside. And so we moved everything inside. So it's nice. It's good. But it's very warm outside. So I guess summer's coming. Yes, that's what that means. But yeah, here we are.
I wonder how you do a watch party.
Oh, I do not know.
I do not know.
We're just going to hang out here. Just all of us here. All 6 of us until 5. Because that would be a good time. That is the time that I said. And so I'm going to stick to that. Yay! I'm glad it sounds good. I'm very happy. Yay. Thank you, Stan. Let's see. Cool. Hello, Jacob. Hello. Also, this bench that I'm sitting on, it like squeaks when I move. So I just want everyone to know that like ahead of time. That's what's going on with the noise. All right. You know what? It's 5 o'clock. Enough. So, I was reading this book yesterday. I got it like years ago, but I never really took time to read much of it. But I started reading it yesterday, and it's called A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23 by W. Philip Keller. It's fantastic. There's so much glare, but it's so good. And it's written by this guy who was a shepherd, and he talks about his experience having sheep, but in kind of a Christian sense, in the way of looking at the 23rd Psalm. And so it's so interesting. And he has so many good insights. And so there's 2 passages from, I believe, the 2nd chapter. It goes by lines of the 23rd Psalm. And so it's like, the first line of it is like the first chapter. And it's not a large book. It's very small, but it's so good. And y'all should all read it. I have it if you'd like to borrow it. Or you should get it for yourself and you can mark it up because it's so good. But it is, I think, the 2nd chapter. And there's 2 parts that I want to talk about kind of in light of this question that I think would be cool if we could talk about today is how in your life have you seen God be a good shepherd? And I think we all kind of have a decent idea of what a good shepherd is, but I know for sure I've never shepherded sheep before. I've never herded sheep. And so I really don't know really what that looks like. I thought I did, started reading this, realized I have no idea. And there's so much that goes into it. Like, it's crazy. And so I want to read the first part of this, and then we'll read the second part later on after I play some songs. But in this chapter, it is based off of the line, "He makes me lie down in green pastures." And he starts off by talking about how there's 4 things that a sheep has to kind of like have met, 4 requirements that it has to have met before it can even lie down. Because apparently sheep can't deal with life. And so it says, it says the strange thing about sheep is that because of their very makeup, it is almost impossible for them to be made to lie down unless 4 requirements are met. Owing to their timidity, they refuse to lie down unless they are free of all fear. So that's number 1. Number 2, because of the social behavior within a flock, sheep will not lie down unless they are free from friction with others of their kind. Number 2. Number 3 is if tormented by flies or parasites, sheep will not lie down. Only when free of these pests can they relax. And number 4 is lastly, sheep will not lie down as long as they feel in need of finding food. They must be free from hunger. It is significant that to be at rest, there must be a definite sense of freedom from fear, tension, aggravations, and hunger. The unique aspect of this picture is that only the sheepman himself, the shepherd, he says sheepman, and I think that's so fun. The sheepman himself can provide release from the anxieties. I was like, okay, that's really cool. And so Two of these really stuck out to me, and I would like to share them with y'all. So the first one we'll talk about now, and the second one we'll talk about later. So the first one that I want to talk about is the free from all fear aspect. And so he talks about how when he was first a shepherd, he didn't quite know like how timid sheep actually are, and also how at risk they are. They have no natural defense mechanisms. They can only like run. That's really all they can do. It says they have little or no means of self-defense. They are helpless, timid, feeble creatures whose only resource is to run. And so that's sad. But he talks about how he had to drive off like stray dogs that would come and like disturb the flock and like and kill them. And it said 2 dogs have been known to kill as many as 292 sheep in a single night of unbridled slaughter. So like that is intense. And so he said that he was really shocked to like wake up in the morning and like have like a bunch of his sheep killed. And so there was an attack one day, and he said, from then on, I slept with a rifle and a flashlight under my by my bed. At the least sound of the flock being disturbed, I would leap from the bed and, calling my faithful collie, dash out into the night, rifle in hand, ready to protect my sheep. In the course of time, I realized that nothing so quieted and reassured the sheep as to see me in the field. The presence of their master and owner and protector put them at ease as nothing else could, and this applied day and night. And so he even talks about like different nights he would just spend night after night just with his dog and him just out under the stars just to keep the sheep calm and keep all of the predators away. And he relates it to our life, and he says, in the Christian's life, there is no substitute for the keen awareness of that our shepherd is nearby. There is nothing like Christ's presence to dispel the fear, the panic, the terror of the unknown. We live a most uncertain life. Any hour can bring disaster, danger, and distress from unknown quarters. Life is full of hazards. No one can tell what a day will produce in the new trouble. We live either in a sense of anxiety, fear, and foreboding, or in a sense of quiet rest. Which is it? Generally, it is the unknown or the unexpected that produces the greatest panic. It is the grip of fear that most of us are unable to cope with the cruel circumstances and harsh complexities of life. We feel there are foes that endanger our tranquility. Often our first impulse is to simply get up and run from them. And it says, then, in the midst of our misfortunes, there suddenly comes the awareness that he, the Christ, the Good Shepherd, is there. It makes all the difference. His presence in the picture throws a different light on the whole scene. Suddenly, things are not half so black nor nearly so terrifying. The outlook changes, and there is hope. I find myself delivered from fear. Rest returns, and I can relax. It says that's what Christ does for us, and I think that's so sweet to think about that, and to think about all of the scary things in your life, and maybe if there's people in your life that are scary, or if there's situations that are scary, or things that are unknown, you don't know what's going to happen. I think sometimes we think we do, but really none of us do. But that we, like the sheep, are so frightened by so much, but yet also like the sheep, just the knowledge that Jesus is there, he is present, that makes all of the difference. And so we're going to be talking about that. And then we will also be talking about the idea of being free from aggravations and pests and things like that. And he has some really good insight on that. We'll talk about that later. But the question for those of you who have come or who have forgotten or just would like to hear it again, you're going to hear it again. And it is this. How has God been a good shepherd to you? In what ways, like in your life, have you seen him just be that good shepherd who is present and he knows his sheep? It's just how have you seen that? If I can talk, like so yeah, that's the question. We'll be answering it here in 4 songs. So if you want to measure time by songs, feel free to join me in that. We're going to be starting with a song that I love. It's called "For the Beauty of the Earth," and it's an older song, but I think it's really pretty. And so I just really love the lyrics. So here we go. For the Lord of all to thee be raised. This our hymn of grateful praise. Lord of all to thee be raised. This our hymn of grateful praise. I was talking with my mom, I think like a month or so ago, and she said this thing, and it kind of stuck out to me. She said, praise lifts heavy burdens. And I think that is so true. We've come to join this song, sung long before our time, to raise our voice along heaven and earth alike. We've seen your faithful hand, your mercy without end. The King who bled and died, the God who sacrificed, enthroned upon the praises of 1,000 generations. You are worthy, Lord of all. You, slain and risen King, lift our voice with heaven, singing worthy, Lord of all. All through this life we lead, all through eternity, our endless praise will rise. Jesus be glorified. Jesus be glorified. Enthroned upon the praises of 1,000 generations. You are worthy, Lord of all. You stayed in risen King. Lift our voice with heaven, singing worthy, Lord of all. Generations, you are worthy, Lord of all. Now to you, the slain and risen King, lift our voice to heaven, singing worthy, Lord of all. Enthroned upon the praises of 1,000 generations, you are worthy, Lord of all. I love that song. The imagery in that, it's so cool because it's like, it makes you think about just these generations and generations of people praising the same God that we're praising now. And I think that's so cool and that's so powerful. It reminds me of like that great cloud of witnesses thing that Paul talks about, that old thing. But I think that's really cool. Something really powerful about that. So this is a song we have not sung before. I am sure of this, but it's super fun. I just learned it, so we'll just see what happens. And it's super good. It's called How Long by Sojourn. But something that's really cool about this song that kind of struck me is it's like this cry out to God of like, how long, O Lord, will you hide your face? It's based on the Psalms. How long must I labor in vain? How long, O Lord, will you wait to rescue me? How long, O Lord, how long? And he talks about, he's like, I feel like the devil's winning, and like there's all these arrows, they pierce me, and like if you wait, like I'm gonna die, and like there's almost this desperation of you're just crying out to God. But at the very end, there's this bridge, and he says, would my tempter pursue me if he knew you were there? Or knew you were near. Oh my gosh, can I read? Apparently not. Would he boast of his power if he felt your hand? And just this acknowledgement of like, it's really scary and it feels really dark. There was a bug. But it's scary and it's dark, but I know that God is stronger than all of this, and I'm going to wait on the Lord. So here we go. How long, oh Lord? Well, that's not it. How long, oh Lord, will you hide your face? How long? Why can't I do this? We'll get there. How long, oh Lord, will you hide your face? How long until yeah, there we go. How long, oh Lord, will you hide your face? How long must I labor in vain? How long, oh Lord, will you wait to rescue me? How long? You know, y'all, this is just learned it yesterday. My protector, my strength, my shelter, hurry. Yeah. Shine your face on this darkness, and I'll praise you in every way. My tempter pursue. Most of his power. another day and it will be good. I'm so sorry. You know, stuff just happens. It just really does.
It didn't sound too bad.
You know, it's fine. The point of the song is we're crying out to God for help, and I'm crying out to God for help because that was a train wreck. So here we are. And it was, it's over now. We're going to do the next song. Honestly, you can't take yourself too seriously.
Truthfully.
You'll crumble if you do.
Truthfully.
I swear I had it last night. It was such a bop. And then I played it, and I was like, nothing about this is going right. And so
sometimes that happens.
it really does. It really does. I'll be back with it, and it'll be good. And it'll be a bop, and you'll know what I meant. And we'll rock out to begging the Lord for help together. The oceans may rise over my head. Can't change what you said. Can't change what you said. Though I be found in the valley of death. Can't change what you said. Can't change what you said. Everything you do is good. You are kind, and everything you do is kind. You don't fail. You haven't and you never will. You are good, and everything you do is good. No future or past. No height, no depth can change what you said. Can't change what you said. My heart is convinced, so I'll raise again. Declare what you said. Declare what you said. You are good, and everything you do is good. You are kind, and everything you do is kind. You don't fail. You have to, you never will. You are good, and everything you do is good. Your promises, yes and amen. I know nothing can ever change what you said. I know. Yes and amen. I know your promises. Yes and amen. You are good, and everything you do is good. You are kind, and everything you do is kind. You don't fail, and you never will. You are good. Everything you do is good. The oceans may rise over my head. Can't change what you said. Can't change what you said. My heart is convinced, so I'll praise again. Declare what you said. Declare what you said. You are good, and everything you do is good. You are kind, and everything you do is kind. You don't fail. You haven't and you never will. You are good, and everything you do is good. All right. So now, for those of you who have come on to watching, and those of you who have not, thank you. And now we're going to be reading the second part of this wonderful book, A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23 by W. Philip Philliam. I was like, I wonder what the W stands for. Probably William. That's all going on in my head in the background. I'm like, Philliam. W. Philip Keller. And so, yeah, so he was talking about different things that sheep need in order to like even be able to lie down because they just can't deal. That's just the quote of the night. Sheep can't deal. And so I read one part where he talks about how they have to be free from all fear, and how even having a shepherd there in the pasture was enough for the sheep to be like, okay, we can calm down, because they know that the shepherd's going to take care of it for them. They don't have to fight for themselves. And in fact, they can't fight for themselves. They're sheep. All they can do is run. And so the second part is I'm going to be talking about, or I will be reading. I won't be talking about it. I have nothing better to say than what he has already said here, about how sheep have to be free from fear of the torment of parasites and like things that come at them. And so here we are. It is story time. As is the case with freedom from fear of predators or friction within the flock, the freedom from the fear of torment of parasites and insects is essential to the contentment of sheep. This aspect of their behavior will be dealt with in greater detail later in the song, but is nevertheless important to mention here. Sheep, especially in the summer, can be driven to absolute distraction by nasal flies, bot flies, warble flies, and ticks. When they're tormented by these pests, it is literally impossible for them to lie down and rest. Instead, they are up on their feet, stamping their legs, shaking their heads, and ready to rush off into the bush for relief from the pests. Only diligent care of the owner, who keeps a consistent lookout for these insects, will prevent them from annoying his flock. A good shepherd will apply various types of insect repellents to his sheep. He will see that they are dipped to clear their fleeces of ticks, and he will see that they are someone's at the door. That there are shelter belts of trees and bush available for them, where they can find refuge and release from their tormentors. This all entails considerable extra care. It takes time and labor and expensive chemicals to do the job thoroughly. It means, too, that the sheepman must also be amongst his charges daily, keeping a close watch on their behavior. As soon as there is the least evidence that they are being disturbed, he must take steps to provide them with relief. Always uppermost in his mind is the aim of keeping his flock quiet, contented, and at peace. Similarly, in the Christian life, there are bound to be many small irritations. There are the annoyances of petty frustrations and ever-reoccurring disagreeable experiences. In modern terminology, we refer to these upsetting circumstances or people as being bugged. Is there an antidote for them? Can one come to the place of quiet contentment despite them? The answer for the one in crisis care is definitely yes. There is one of the main functions of the gracious Holy Spirit. In Scripture, he is often symbolized by oil, by that which brings healing and comfort and relief from the harsh and abrasive aspects of life. The gracious Holy Spirit makes real in me the very presence of the Christ. He brings quietness, serenity, strength, and calmness in the face of frustrations and futility. When I turn to him and expose the problem to him, allowing him to see that I have a dilemma, a difficulty, a disagreeable experience beyond my control, he comes to assist. Often a helpful approach is to simply say aloud, "Oh, Master, this is beyond me. I can't cope with it. It's bugging me. I can't rest. Please take over." Then he does take over in his own wondrous way. He applies the healing, soothing, effective antidote of his own person and presence to my particular problem. There immediately comes into my consciousness the awareness of his dealing with a difficulty in a way I had not anticipated. And because of the assurance that he has become active on my behalf, there steals over me a sense of quiet contentment. I am then able to lie down in peace and rest, all because of what he does. And also, I want to point out two things. Earlier, we didn't read this part, But earlier he talked about how sheep sometimes will like bully each other, and they'll like get on each other's nerves, and they'll like just really hurt each other and like really abuse each other, and how as a good shepherd you have to go in and like break that up, because that's not helpful for the sheep. Sheep need to be at peace, or they'll all freak out. Once one sheep freaks out, they all freak out, and that's not good for the herd. But I think the other thing I wanted to point out is something really sweet. It talks about how the good shepherd has to be with the sheep, like physically there with the sheep and constant with them. And he has to care for them in order for the sheep to do well. And he does. And the Lord refers to himself as the good shepherd. And as I read this book, I just see more and more of just like, oh, wow, like the detail and like all of the things that a good shepherd has to do. And this isn't even like, oh, the best shepherd. It's like any good shepherd would do this. And so like any good shepherd would care for his sheep. And if we as people who are messed up can be that intentional and sweet and good to sheep, how much more the Lord with us. The shepherd didn't even make the sheep, but God made us. And so like how much more would he care for us? So with that, I think the question that I asked before, if I can remember it, was, yes, how have you seen God be a good shepherd in your life? And so we're going to take some time to talk about that. Feel free to put it in the chat, or if you have my number, text me, and we will talk about that. Raven, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Oh gosh, sure.
Come here, friend.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there's stuff everywhere.
No, you're fine. Just wanted to make sure So the question is, how has God been a really good shepherd to me? Yeah. Oh gosh, I think if I look at my life, he's like this thing of like just shepherding, like guiding me to a way of like knowing more about him. And I like think about my past traumas and think about just like what I've been through, but always consistently like wanting to know Jesus, which was like really weird, but also that was God, honestly and truthfully. He was like, I have a plan for you and you're going to keep yearning for that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I think he is just such a good God and a good, like thinking about what you just said about the shepherd, about like how any like good shepherd would do these things. And I'm like thinking about that. I'm like, man, our God's not just like a good shepherd. He's the best shepherd. Yeah. And like, that's just so cool to me. Yeah, that's like sort of what my thoughts are. I can probably expand.
It's really good.
But
yeah. I was thinking a similar thing of like just how there have been experiences in my life that like weren't great, but could have gone so much worse.
Yeah.
And like, it's inexplicable how they didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that has to be God, because it's like, I feel so taken care of, even in the face of like really scary things.
Yeah.
And like the fact that I've seen that in my life too. He just guides me and I'm like, what? How did I end up here?
Honestly.
Like, cause I definitely wasn't going down that track at all. And so somehow I ended up here where I'm singing praises to God and talking about Jesus with like my really sweet friends. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I get to live in a house with like all of these sweet girls who just really love the Lord. Like, that's crazy to me. If you look at the way my life was headed, like 3 years ago or so, that's not the trajectory. It was arrested for sure. And it just went. And I think that's so sweet. In the book, he talks about how he had this one sheep. And also, like, all sheep look the same to me. Like, they really... So there's, like, pictures in this book of, like, his flock. Also, there's a dog. There's a dog, and it's really cute.
We love dogs in this house.
Oh, we really do. Where is this? Oh, yeah. So, like, just a bunch of sheep. And it looks like just a bunch of, like, sheep sheep, like they're all the same. But he's like, oh yeah, this one sheep and this other sheep, and he's like referring to them specifically, and I'm like, how do you know? But he knows his sheep.
Yeah.
And so he like talks about this one sheep who was beautiful, and she was like really strong, and apparently like a great sheep in terms of sheep. She was like it. But how she was constantly like dissatisfied, and how she would wander off, and like she ended up leading like her little lambs to also wander off, and then she led the rest of the flock to wander off. And it's like, just because of this one sheep, which that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But the idea of like he would come in and like guide her back and be like, no, let's come back over this way.
no, not over there.
And she's like, whatever sheeps do. Sheep.
If you ever wonder what it's like in our room, this is what it's
right here.
Right here.
Welcome. And so, but yeah, just that I've seen him do that with me too.
Yeah.
Of just being like, but what about this?
Yeah, and I was like thinking about it, like I
got a thing.
Okay, yeah. You say that, and then I'll say my thing.
Okay. Stan said, God has been a good shepherd in a lot of different areas in my life. The most recent has been in the context of ministering to others. He calls us to be shepherds of our own flocks. Yes. And to bring lost sheep back to him. Mm-hmm. He's been showing me how deep friendship and relationship with other people can be. The same deep love he shows me, he asks us to do the same to all the other sheep out there. Yes. The more I read this book, the more I just like want to cry about sheep because I love them. Anyway, I'm still reading this and I'm not going to cry. That's what's not going to happen. If you do, I will. If we can be good shepherds like Jesus, how much better will we love God's children and the most sheep of the world? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really good. I'm going to look in here just in case. I'm sorry, there's like an arm just reaching.
This is where we need 3D.
This is, yes.
Yeah.
Can we get live stream in 3D?
Yeah.
That'd be so fun. I'd be like, ha! Do you think we're actually as funny as we think we are?
Probably not.
Because I think we should be.
I know.
Because I think we're hilarious.
Yeah, I think we're really funny, but like, probably the outsider looking in, we're not really that funny.
Probably not.
That makes me sad. But at least we think we're funny.
Absolutely.
And we have fun.
We do. We have a lot of fun.
But what I was thinking is like how God has been a shepherd to me. Like, I was living in Illinois. Me too.
Yeah.
And my dad got a job down here, which is like a God thing because he was looking for a job for a while. Because the business he was working for shut down. And, like, it was almost like this thing of, like, there was, like, no way I wasn't going to move down here. And, like, my mind was set. And I'm not usually the person to make decisions.
Not usually the person to make decisions.
To make decisions like that. Like, big decisions. I always try to, like... I mull things over. I'm very indecisive. That's just like part of me. #9.
You're a deep thinker.
You know, the stream of consciousness goes through my brain.
Just running.
But I think it was totally God steering me into a direction because I was thinking about bursts of thoughts of like what it would be like if I was in Illinois and had gone through what I did. And like I think God really did save me from some of those things and like really been like, no, this is not where you're gonna be, this is where you're gonna be so I can serve you.
That's really cool.
And so I cannot serve you, but you serve the Lord.
Yes.
So I can serve the Lord. Which and like kind of like even though I could see myself serving the Lord because there was spurts like, oh, cool. I was involved in a church, sort of, and like going to a small group at like the age of like 10. It was cool. But I think God really had a lot of plans and was just like, nope, this is where you're gonna go, and like ultimately like drove me towards Him, and like that was just really cool.
Mm-hmm. I just want to point out that I thought I got a text from someone sharing something sentimental, and instead it was Sion saying, "Do it, cry." So, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That was really good.
No problem.
And I might cry. I really might, because that was really sweet. Just like, oh.
We're just like, it's an hour of crying, of us crying, us going, oh.
Just Facebook Live, two roommates crying together.
That's gonna be our next YouTube.
Absolutely. Welcome to Worship 246, where we get people to cry with. An hour of crying.
Well, does anybody else have thoughts? There's 10 of you.
Hello. If y'all want, you can mull that over.
Yeah.
And how about I play some songs?
Yeah.
They can think about it.
Yeah.
We can talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Oh, that's definitely not. What? Okay, we're good. We're all good. Everything's good. All right, cool. So this song is a song that you showed me.
Oh,
yeah. That night when I was like, I don't know what songs to sing. And you're like, what about this? And I was like, ooh. But it's House of God Forever.
Oh.
And it is basically the 23rd song. And so I thought, how fitting. Is that it? Is that? We'll see. Give me a second. You know, we're just kind of struggling on everything today, but you know, that's totally fine. Is my shepherd, I won't be wanting, I won't be wanting. Makes me rest in fields of green, quiet streams. Though I walk through the valley, death and dying, I feel you are with me. You're always with me. Shepherd's staff comforts me on my fears, presence of enemies. Surely goodness follow me, house of God forever. Makes me rest house of God forever. The house of God forever. Shepherd's staff comforts me. You are my feet, presence of enemies. Surely goodness follow me in the house of God forever. The house of God forever. I think that's such cool imagery of preparing a feast for you in the presence of your enemies, and just the idea of like having a meal in front of all of your enemies, but you're with God, and so it's no problem, and he's made it for you, and it's you and him, and that's so intimate and it's so sweet. It's the idea of being completely fearless because kind of like the sheep from the first thing that we read together, that you have nothing to fear. The Bible talks about they might hurt your body, but what can man do to you? What can mere man do to you when God is in control? This next song is called Lead Us Back. It's also by Sojourn. Let's see if I don't butcher it like the last Sojourn song. But if I don't, or if I do, regardless, it's a great song. And we've played it before, and it talks about all of these different things that kind of sing this siren song, kind of hearkening back to Odysseus. And I believe it's Odysseus. I question it every time. These sirens who, beautiful voices would lure sailors, but lure them to their deaths. And so it talks about comfort, singing a siren tune, and favor, singing a siren tune, and power. And it kind of wraps up. And this outro, it says, "We're a valley of dry bones. Lead us back to life in you. We've become a talent show. Lead us back to life in you. We've been throwing heavy stones. Lead us back to life in you." And so just kind of repeating that line of just lead us back to life in you, because we stray like sheep. We stray, but lead us back because God knows what is good and what is life-giving. Falling down upon our knees, sharing our common shame. We have sought security, not the cost that pays no name. Fences guard our hearts and homes, comfort sweet society. Through the valley of dry bones, lead us back to life in you. Lord, we fall upon our knees, we We've become a talent show. Lead us back to life in you. We've been throwing heavy stones. Lead us back to life in you. Dark days, scared to lose. I cry for you. In your arms, Lord, carry me through. I won't go without you. Oh Lord, you're closer than a brother, a friend that I can fall on. Oh, God of my salvation, carried all my burdens on the cross. Greater love has no man than to die for his friend. When I was your enemy, Lord, you came and died for me. Closer than a brother, a friend that I can call on. Oh, God of my salvation, carried all my burdens. Oh, Lord, you're closer than a brother, a friend that I can call on. God of my salvation, carried all my burdens on the cross. All right. So this next song we're gonna sing is "Holy, Holy, Holy." And I really love this song. Once again, the imagery. I just love songs with good imagery. Although, what a surprise, honestly. But I think this is such a neat song. It talks about the first verse of it. It says, "Early in the morning, our song shall rise to thee." And just that imagery of like the song, like rising to God early in the morning, maybe with like a sunrise. And then the second verse, it talks about all the saints adore thee, casting down their golden crowns around the glassy sea. Cherubim and seraphim falling down before thee, who wert and art and evermore shall be. So I know this has like fancy old language and all of that, but I mean, I think it makes it so beautiful. And it talks about the third verse. I'm just going to go verse by verse because I think it's super important. The third verse, it says, "Holy, holy, holy, though the darkness hides thee, though the eye of sinful man thy glory may not see. So basically, even though it's like really dark and we're sinful and we can't always see him, it says, though the eye of sinful man thy glory may not see, only thou art holy. There is none beside thee, perfect in power and love and purity. And then after that, the fourth verse talks about how everything that God makes praises his name, and how it just all reflects just how good he is. So here we go. And then after that, we're going to finish with doxology, which is kind of this classic thing to end a service. And I thought it'd be kind of fun just to add it in. So yes. All right. So that concludes it. So there are a few things I would like to share with y'all. So this, I believe, Sunday will continue. Sunday night worship is a permanent thing. So yay! I believe, not positive, but I'm like pretty sure that Stian and I are going to be moving worship, kind of combining all of it into Sunday nights from now on. And just be looking out to see what Sunday nights those will be. I believe we're going to be doing next Sunday night, I think. But also it's Mother's Day, so that's like a thing that's up in the air. We'll see. We'll let you know. Thank y'all so much for coming out, or those who did not come out for watching later. I think that's so cool. Praise God for technology, right? So yeah, I think that's basically all the announcements. Thank y'all for participating in the question. And also, I'm just going to rep this book one more time because it's really just so good. It's A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23 by W. Philip Keller. Here it is. It's so good. Y'all should read it. Yes. Again, thank you. Y'all are the best. Bye. Oh no, I didn't end it. Oh.